Have you ever wondered about the secret life of your favorite chocolate bar? Where did it come from? It didn't just magically appear on a store shelf, you know. Its story starts long before that, in a warm tropical place growing on a tree. This isn't just any tree, it's the Theobroma cacao tree, which translates to food of the gods. And honestly, it's a fitting name. The journey from a humble pod on this tree to the delicious bar in your hand is a long and fascinating one, full of science, patience, and a little bit of magic. So let's pull back the curtain and follow that bean. Our adventure begins in the lush rainforests near the equator. Here, football-shaped pods grow directly from the trunk and branches of the cacao tree. They come in a rainbow of colors: green, yellow, orange, red, and even purple. Inside each pod, protected by a thick husk, are about 30 to 50 seeds. These are the cacao beans, and they are nestled in a sweet, white, fruity pulp. Harvesting these pods is a delicate job. Farmers use long poles with sharp knives called machetes to carefully cut the pods from the tree without damaging the branches or the precious flower cushions that will produce future pods. Once the pods are gathered, they are split open, usually with a good solid whack from a machete. The wet beans, covered in that sticky pulp, are scooped out by hand. Now, you might think these beans are ready to become chocolate, but they taste nothing like it at this point. In fact, they are incredibly bitter and astringent. The real magic, the first crucial step in developing that chocolatey flavor we all know and love, is about to happen. This next stage is called fermentation, and it's where the flavor's journey truly begins. It's a natural process that requires careful attention. The wet beans are piled into wooden boxes or onto large banana leaves and then covered up. For the next 5 to 7 days, a party starts. Naturally occurring yeasts and bacteria in the environment begin to feast on the sweet pulp surrounding the beans. This process generates heat, which is vital. The heat and the activity of the microbes transform the inside of the bean. They stop the bean from germinating and begin to develop the complex flavor precursors, the building blocks of what will eventually become that rich, deep chocolate taste. Without this crucial fermentation, we'd never get the chocolate we crave. After the fermentation party is over, the beans are still very wet, holding about 60% moisture. If they were shipped like this, they would quickly grow mold and spoil. So the next step is drying. The beans are spread out in a thin layer on large trays or bamboo mats under the hot tropical sun. Farmers rake them regularly to ensure they dry evenly. This process can take a week or more, depending on the weather. The goal is to reduce the moisture content to about 7%. This not only preserves the beans for their long journey, but also continues to develop their flavor, mellowing out some of the bitterness. Once the beans are properly dried, they are packed into large jute sacks. They are now ready for a long trip. These sacks are loaded onto trucks, then onto massive cargo ships to travel across oceans to chocolate factories all around the world. The journey itself is a critical part of the process. The beans must be kept dry and safe from pests. Each bag represents months of hard work from the farmers, and it's a precious cargo. When the bags finally arrive at the factory, the real fun for the chocolate maker begins, but not before a very important step: quality control. As soon as the sacks of beans land at the factory, they are inspected. A sample is taken from each bag to be checked for quality. Experts look at the size and color of the beans. They check for any signs of mold, insect damage, or foreign objects. Then they perform a cut test, slicing a few beans in half to look at the internal structure and color, which tells them if the beans were fermented and dried correctly. They even roast a tiny batch to taste it, checking for any off flavors. Only the best beans that meet the factory's strict standards will be allowed to continue on their journey to become chocolate. This first quality check is non-negotiable. Think of it like a chef inspecting produce before it enters the kitchen. If you start with bad ingredients, you'll end up with a bad final product, and no amount of processing can fix that. A chocolate maker's reputation depends on consistency and quality, and that all starts with ensuring they have the best possible raw cacao beans. These beans have traveled thousands of miles, and this is their final exam before the great transformation begins inside the factory walls. It's a gatekeeper moment for flavor. Now we get to one of the most important steps for flavor development: roasting. The approved beans are placed into large, rotating roasters. Much like roasting coffee beans or nuts, this process uses carefully controlled heat to bring out the best in the cacao. The temperature and time are adjusted based on the origin of the beans and the type of chocolate the maker wants to create. During roasting, the Maillard reaction takes place, the same chemical reaction that gives toast and seared steak their delicious brown flavor. This develops the rich, deep, and complex chocolatey notes we crave. After roasting, the beans are cooled down quickly. The once leathery shells have now become brittle and dry. The inside of the bean, now called a nib, is where all the chocolatey goodness resides. But it's trapped inside that shell. The next step is to separate the two. The beans are fed into a machine for cracking and winnowing. The machine cracks the beans into smaller pieces, and then a system of fans and sieves blows away the light, papery shells, leaving behind only the pure, broken pieces of cacao nib. The shells aren't wasted. They can be used for things like garden mulch or even brewed into a tea. We now have pure cacao nibs. If you were to taste one, you'd find it's crunchy and tastes intensely of unsweetened chocolate. It's good, but it's not the smooth texture we expect. The next step is to grind these nibs into a paste. The nibs are fed into powerful grinders or mills. Cacao nibs are about 50% fat, a special type of fat called cocoa butter. The friction and pressure from the grinding process generate heat, which melts the cocoa butter. This transforms the solid, crunchy nibs into a thick, dark, flowing liquid known as chocolate liquor. This chocolate liquor is the heart and soul of all chocolate. It's 100% pure cacao, with no sugar or any other ingredients added yet. It's intensely flavorful but also very bitter. Don't be fooled by the name liquor. There's absolutely no alcohol in it. At this stage, the journey of the chocolate liquor can go in two directions. It can be used directly to make dark chocolate, or it can be separated into its two components, cocoa butter and cocoa powder. This is done using a powerful hydraulic press, which squeezes the liquid chocolate liquor until the golden cocoa butter drips out, leaving behind a solid puck of cocoa solids. With our core ingredients ready, chocolate liquor, extra cocoa butter and cocoa solids, which are ground into cocoa powder, the chocolate maker can now act like an alchemist, creating different types of chocolate. The recipe is what determines the final product. For dark chocolate, the maker will mix chocolate liquor with sugar and a little extra cocoa butter. For milk chocolate, they do the same but also add milk powder. And for white chocolate, they skip the chocolate liquor and cocoa solids altogether, using only cocoa butter, sugar and milk powder. This is why white chocolate doesn't have that classic brown color. Once the ingredients are chosen and measured, they are all put into a large mixer. This machine blends everything together into a thick, gritty paste. At this point, the flavor is getting closer, but the texture is all wrong. If you tasted it, it would feel sandy and coarse on your tongue. That's because the sugar crystals and cocoa particles are still relatively large. To get that silky smooth mouthfeel that fine chocolate is known for, the paste must be refined. This is a crucial step for creating a luxurious texture that melts perfectly in your mouth. The gritty paste is fed through a series of heavy steel rollers, a process called refining. These rollers spin at high speeds, grinding the particles of sugar and cocoa down to an incredibly small size. So small that your tongue can no longer detect them individually. The particles are typically ground down to about 20 microns, which is smaller than the width of a human hair. This process generates a lot of heat, so the rollers are often water-cooled to prevent the chocolate from overheating. After refining, the mixture is no longer a paste but a dry, flaky powder, because the process has squeezed the cocoa butter out of the solids. This refined powder now moves on to the next magical step, conching. The powder is placed into a machine called a conche, which has large paddles that slowly scrape and agitate the mixture for hours, or even days. More cocoa butter and an emulsifier like lecithin are added back in. Conching does three very important things. First, the constant friction and aeration help to drive off any remaining harsh, acidic flavors. Second, it evenly coats every single tiny particle with a thin layer of cocoa butter. Third, it turns the mixture from a powder back into a smooth, flowing liquid chocolate. This long, slow process is key to developing the chocolate's final flavor and texture. Our chocolate is now smooth, delicious, and liquid. But we can't just pour it into a mold and call it a day. If we did, it would cool into a dull, crumbly, and soft bar that melts on your fingers instantly. To get that beautiful glossy shine, satisfying snap, and perfect melt-in-your-mouth quality, we need to temper it. Tempering is a precise process of heating and cooling the chocolate to very specific temperatures. This encourages the fat molecules in the cocoa butter to line up and crystallize into a single, stable form. It's pure food science, and it's what separates amateur chocolate from professional chocolate. Once the chocolate is perfectly tempered, it's ready to be molded into bars. The liquid chocolate is poured into molds, which are then placed on a vibrating table. The vibration helps to shake out any tiny air bubbles and ensures the chocolate fills every corner of the mold for a flawless finish. Some bars might have inclusions like nuts, dried fruit, or caramel added at this stage. Another popular technique is enrobing, where a center like a cookie, a pretzel, or a piece of nougat is passed under a waterfall of tempered chocolate, getting completely coated in a delicious layer. But what if you don't want a solid bar? What if you want a creamy, dreamy chocolate spread? The process starts similarly, but instead of just chocolate and sugar, other key ingredients are added to the mix. For a hazelnut chocolate spread, finely roasted and ground hazelnuts are a star player. These are blended with cocoa powder, sugar, skim milk powder, and a vegetable oil like palm or sunflower oil. The oil is crucial because it keeps the spread soft and well spreadable at room temperature, unlike the cocoa butter in a chocolate bar, which is solid. All these ingredients are mixed and then sent through refiners just like solid chocolate to grind all the particles down until the mixture is incredibly smooth. The result is a stable emulsion that won't separate over time. This process ensures that every spoonful is perfectly creamy, with no grittiness from the sugar or hazelnuts. So while it shares some techniques with chocolate making, creating a spread is its own unique science, focused on achieving that perfect, spoonable texture that stays consistent in the jar. It's a different kind of chocolate magic. From the mold, the chocolate bars or enrobed treats travel through a long, cool tunnel. This controlled cooling environment allows the cocoa butter to solidify properly in that stable crystal structure we worked so hard to achieve during tempering. This final step is what locks in the gloss and the snap. Once they emerge from the tunnel fully solid and beautiful, the chocolates are ready for the final stage of their production journey. They are carefully removed from their molds and sent to wrapping machines, which quickly and precisely wrap each bar in foil and a paper label. The journey isn't quite over yet. Even after wrapping, one last quality control check is performed. Inspectors look for any imperfections in the final product. Is the wrap neat? Is the bar broken? Does it have the right gloss? Only the perfect bars make it into boxes, which are then stored in a cool, dry warehouse before being shipped out to stores all over the world. From a pod on a tree to a wrapped bar in a box, every single step has been carefully managed to protect and develop the final flavor and texture of the chocolate. As you can see, the chocolate bar you hold in your hand is the result of an incredible amount of work, care, and science. It's a global journey that involves farmers, shippers, scientists, and artisans. Every step, from fermentation under banana leaves to the precise temperatures of tempering, is designed to transform a bitter bean into a symphony of flavor and texture. Each process has a purpose, a scientific reason for why it must be done in a certain way. It's a testament to human ingenuity and our shared love for this amazing food. So, the next time you unwrap a piece of chocolate, take a moment. Think about its long journey and the many hands that helped bring it to you. Let it melt slowly on your tongue and see if you can taste the care that went into it. Being curious about where your food comes from makes eating it an even richer experience. What other food journeys are you curious about? The story behind what we eat is often just as satisfying as the food itself. Now, if you'll excuse me, I have some chocolate that requires further investigation.